Hello and welcome to our third screenwriting roundtable. We have another crop of talented screenwriters to share their thoughts and insights into their screenplays for the 2021 DLFF Film Festival. And we're just going to quickly go around the Zoom room, and we'll have everyone introduce themselves and their projects, starting with Arthur, who has the distinction of being the only screenwriter this year that has 2 projects selected. And so congratulations twice. And Arthur, if you just want to introduce yourself and your projects, and maybe tell the viewers a little bit about the projects.
Sure. My name is Arthur Tiersky. I'm in Los Angeles area, and I have one project called The Electric War, which is a kind of black comic satirical version of the true story of how the electric chair was invented and how it caused this whole rivalry between Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse. Neither of them they both wanted the other's power, AC and DC, to be powering the electric chair, because then that would be bad publicity for them, so good for themselves. And so it set off this whole war, and then eventually climaxes with the inaugural use of the electric chair, which did not go well. And the other one is called I Don't Know, and it's sort of a meta romantic comedy where I, the screenwriter, write myself into my own romantic comedy and kind of mess it all up. The lead girl, is basically my dream girl because I created her, and so I get along with her even better than the leading man does, and it just creates a whole kind of love triangle and real mess. And we learned that basically I'm just writing this to kind of distract myself from the fact that my girlfriend and I have just broken up, and so then she comes back into the picture, and that gets even hairier. So it's fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Hi, Stirling. Thanks for joining us. You will get the feel of things in a second. So it was worth the wait because you have the best backdrop so far. So congratulations on that. There'll be an award and a small $20,000 stipend. So
okay, great, good.
Okay,
I'm glad I took the time
Jim, will you tell us about It's Just a Game?
I'm happy to. Everybody has a story as to where the idea for a screenplay came from. I was getting a haircut, and the stylists were playing a game that I had never heard of called a Kiss, Marry, or Kill. And they were playing it using each other as characters. I'd never heard of it, so I asked the stylist, who's done my hair for over 20 years, what game is that? Well, it used to be a kids game, and they used movie stars, but when we play it, we use each other, and we don't say kiss, we say screw. And that started a discussion of a lot of people trying to educate me on this game. So then I started to think, there's gotta be a story in here for me somewhere. And having been in a large law firm and being retired, it gives me the ability to say whatever I want about large law firms. And so I created a scenario where 4 lawyers who are initially strangers to each other, because they're from different offices of the firm, wind up in Las Vegas, excluded from the big guys' meetings, and decide to play a game. And they play screw, marry, or kill while they are drinking, and they all decide the one who should be killed is the managing partner of their firm. Unfortunately for them, it turns out that he is indeed killed, as is the managing partner of the British firm that they were all there to discuss a merger with. That brings the police in. The police in Las Vegas become my comic element because the group consists of a former showgirl, chief detective, and her 2 assistants who are former Chippendale dancers and who are both gay. So what I wanted to do was use this game and create something that had a murder and had investigation in the traditional solve it element, a little romance because the 4 are 2 very unlikely couples, and have the comic element of the police and other situations as the crimes are ultimately solved.
Yeah, it was definitely a clever narrative device, to set up the plot. So, kudos to that. Kelly, could you tell us about your project, Slumming It?
Yeah. So normally I write darker scripts, like dark dramas or, even darker material than that. What happened was, there had been all these headlines about, big name celebrity breakups and different, kind of scandals in the news. And at the same time, my grandmother was actually dying from cancer. And so I think my brain just decided it needed a break. And so this is actually like the first comedy script that I wrote. And through the storyline, it's kind of a, real basic sort of rom-com thing. Two unlikely people get together. It's supposed to be, like an A-list actor and a woman from his crew. They meet on set, they become friends. He's married to another A-list actress. They seem like the perfect it couple. She's got a boyfriend who does, indie films. They seem like, an ordinary Hollywood type couple. But through their friendship, they start to realize that they both have a lot of unrealized ambitions and dreams that they sort of set aside for whatever, trajectory they both got on, and realize that both of their, relationships and the life path that they're on are really unsatisfactory. And it, obviously, when there's cracks in the pavement, somebody trips, there's silly incidences and things that happen. Of course, a lot of it involves the paparazzi, obviously, because he's, an A-list actor, he's, followed around a lot, and he ends up in a lot of awkward situations. And, that kind of adds a lot of comedy to it, is, the whole, TMZ sort of aspect. It's a really sweet story. I hope that there's, a little, unconventional side of it, because it is, probably veers a little more towards the dramatic than just a straight out rom-com. But it was a fun exercise and a, great relief, to kind of just escape. It was kind of a little escapism. And it was a lot of fun to write, and I actually even enjoy reading it. So I'm glad other people have enjoyed it.
When did you write this?
I actually wrote it, I started writing it a few years ago, and then, rewriting,
Okay.
and I really finished it. I would say I really, really finished it during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I polished it and sent it off, and it's been getting, pretty positive reviews.
Yeah. Well, I hope your grandmother is doing well,
Thank you. But luckily she had a very quick bout with cancer and died peacefully. So
okay.
it was,
I'm sorry.
a positive conclusion to her very, very long life. So it was, it was a positive, situation, as sad as it was. But sometimes we need a little comic relief, and
Yeah.
that's what my brain gave me. So
Well, the reason I asked was I think it's been very interesting from a programming point of view. So with films, it's more apparent, like there definitely has been an impact on the creative side in the films due to the pandemic. But I don't get that same feel from the screenplays, because I don't know, because it's hard to put a timestamp on a screenplay, and I don't have enough bandwidth to know like who submitted when, So that's the only reason I asked. But thank you for sharing that, and my condolences. So Judd and Aaron, tell us about it's technically that's our show, but I'm gonna say that's your show.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. That's our show. I'll give you a little background. Aaron unfortunately couldn't join, but he and I used to manage a comedy tour company together. He still does, but I full-time work unfortunately caused me to have to leave that. formerly of LA, newly relocated to Austin. But in our 5 years working the tour company and performing together, we were exposed to a universe that is wildly unexplored and crazy to be part of. It's the campus activities entertainment market. So that's our show. It follows 4 young upstart improv comedians in a troupe as they try to break success in the campus college entertainment market. And we took this world that it started with a conversation at an event called NACA, which is a National Association of Campus Activities. And these are conventions that bring together some of the craziest people, acts, performers, musicians, magicians, psychic dogs, you name it, into a convention center like in Iowa City. And everybody is trying to ply their wares to groups of 18-year-old college kids to get them to buy our acts and bring us to campus. So when we were talking about it and breaking the story, we decided we wanted to explore this world, but also bring in a lot of really unexpected elements. And I mean, we had a ton of fun writing the script. And even when we go back and read it together, can't stop ourselves from laughing at some of our favorite points. Like, I know y'all haven't necessarily read it yet, but when you're driving cross country or in the middle of the Midwest, there's tons of cornfields. And one of the games we would play in the tour van is every time you see a cornfield, you yell out corn until it ends. And then the other side of it is Flying J's. If you're not familiar, are giant truck stops in the middle of nowhere that have everything. They're like these superstores. And we turned the Flying J into a musical element. So every time our group stops at a Flying J, there's a big musical number that breaks out with the lot lizards and the truck stop guys and all of them. So tons of fun with it. Lots of fun with this series.
So Jim, I hope you're taking notes, because now you have a sequel to It's Just a Game, but it's going to be centered around screaming corn while you're driving through the class. Okay.
Yes, or maybe one that just says games writers play.
Yeah, well,
that would be Eric Burns.
I'll look for your submission for 2022. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you, Judd. Hey, Jay, tell us about the ward.
Well, the ward centers around a guy named Josh Delaney. He has just become the new director of nursing at an extended care facility. This place is overpopulated and just a wreck. About him, he's a genius, but he has some unorthodox ways of dealing with patients. So the show is like a documentary style, like Reno 911 kind of, and it focuses around him and all of the crazy staff members that he had. The thing about it is people don't know that he used to be a patient at a mental health facility, but his unorthodox ways ends up working out for him in the long run.
Jay, you should, have you ever heard of the Titicut Follies? It's an old documentary. I'll send you the email. I'll send you the information. It's, Kelly, do you know the name of that filmmaker? He's very esteemed.
I actually met him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No.
British.
Frederick Wiseman.
Yes, Frederick Wiseman. Yes.
Oh yeah, Wiseman. Thank God.
Yeah. I actually met him.
Wow. But Jay, you should check out this documentary. It's like it was black and white, so it's a long time ago. But it's a documentary filmed, and his style was like I don't know how you describe it, but basically observant with no narrative and no. But obviously, he's making choices. But the point was, it was supposed to be like purely real. And he did one Titicut Follies, which was in a mental institution, so it was very interesting. And there was at least one scene that I recall where this guy is talking and then he's actually a patient, because he's like talking like a doctor, And then the
Right.
orderly comes, okay, time for your meds. And you're like, what? You know?
Right.
Okay. And finally, Too Many Wades. We have Wilder here and
Hello.
Stirling. Okay.
Hello, how's it going?
Let's hear about Too Many Wades.
Sure.
Sterling, I'll let you start.
All right. Yeah. So, Too Many Wades is a story sort of in the style of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it's about a woman named Hannah who has this kind of deadbeat ex-boyfriend that is still sort of hanging around her life, even though she's now engaged. But he still kind of shows up at her house and asks for rides and that kind of thing. And then this, just as she's starting to think maybe she's done with him, this otherworldly kind of unexplained infection starts turning everyone around her, including her fiance, including everyone in the world, into Wade. And she has to kind of contend with the fallout from that. And it gets pretty bad. So
It's dark.
that's the story. Yeah.
Hey, Wilder, maybe you can address the collaborative aspect, because, I know some partnerships thrive and, other people just cannot work with a partner. So why don't you speak a little bit to Wilder and Stirling as a team?
I think, especially in comedy and other genre things where you're trying to get a reaction out of the audience, so horror comedy especially, it's really great to have somebody to get your reaction on, because you're trying to deal with very primal stuff like, is this funny? Is this scary? Like, until that's in front of some audience, it's just theory. And so it's great that you can have somebody to bounce those ideas off of. And we both have our different strengths and our different interests and fixations, but that it helps kind of make the story, I don't know, I don't want to say more mainstream, but you're a lot more confident that you're going to get more people on board with your thing when you've got somebody who you're always keeping on board. And
Well, I
that's
definitely
kind of
think-
how we look at it is,
Yeah.
we talk about it endlessly until we have a full outline, just figuring out, like, is this too far? Is this on point? Is this character saying we want we want that character to say? And then once we're at the script stage, we know what we're doing. We're just trying to be as true to the idea as it can be. Because
Yeah.
at least the way that we write comedy, it's not about writing jokes. It's more about finding situations that just make playing it as straight as possible funny, which
Right.
is put these characters in this situation, make them true to themselves, and the jokes just hopefully happen.
Yeah.
And so
To keep it very grounded. So yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like it's working out really well. So
Ray, if I can, I have a question for Wilder.
Oh, great.
You had talked in terms of the two of you working on and together really doing the outline. My question goes to, okay, you have the outline, you both are satisfied with it. How do you divide up now the actual writing?
yeah, is
Wilder
it
does all the work.
every other word?
Yeah, not at all. We have a shared document. There's a program called Writer's Duet. And we've also used like Google Docs and stuff where the documents are just always there. And we just kind of organically go in and edit each other. So a lot of times Sterling will spit out the first draft of what we're doing next, and I'll go in and clean it up, or vice versa. Sometimes I'll get fixated on a scene and write it 88 times while he's moving forward. Because there's a shared document, it's not like we don't have to break it up in a mechanical way. And that's been a huge help. I mean, we have online chats and we have shared documents in our age that makes collaboration so much easier.
Like you said, your process seems very organic. So, by the way, Writer's Duet is not a sponsor of the DLFF Film Festival.
No.
So,
Should be.
okay, no more plugs,
They should
Wilder.
be.
No more plugs. Okay. So my general question, which kind of evolved from listening to everyone, is I want to talk a little bit about genre, okay? And you can address your project specifically or your writing process in general. Kelly, you said something very interesting. You said that you normally write darker drama and stuff, and then this was a breath of fresh air. Do you think that this is a direction you're gonna go further or not?
Oddly, I have actually done some short scripts that were comedy horror. I really actually like that genre a lot. I find that one very satisfying. And I absolutely love the original version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So I'm all into Too Many Ways. I'm already there. You just had to mention that, and I'm going. So that's a genre that I really like in particular, not one that I started out thinking I would write, but one I sort of stumbled onto. But I've dabbled a little bit in horror, just straight horror too, but more supernatural, not like blood and guts kind of horror. I like supernatural, ghost stories, stuff like that. But would I try another comedy? Yeah, maybe. I did work on a short that was very comedic, very physical comedy, and it was a group competition thing. It was a local thing, and that was a lot of fun. It didn't turn out as good as we liked because it was a short film competition. You had a very limited time to do it. I really liked it, but I did learn that physical comedy, you really have to plan it out. You really have to choreograph it. It's a lot of work. So I don't know that I would necessarily go in that. It was a nice little experiment, but honestly, it's just fun to play around with different genres and just see what you like.
Yeah. And Arthur, it was interesting that your two projects are so distinct, and also like it's funny because we never really know when like a screenwriter has two projects, or because we're not paying attention to the names, so tell us a little bit about like where your comfort zone is, or are you exploring other genres and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the comedies. I would say it's the majority have been comedies, and those are the ones that have opened the most doors for me. But I like mixing it up. I like stories from history. So for a while, I was kind of alternating between contemporary comedies and historical dramas, and then Electric War was kind of a cross between the two, a historical comedy. I've done a couple of noir scripts just because I love writing noir dialogue. That's as fun as writing gets. I think writing that rhythmic dialogue. So I mean, I like, there's things like I just don't do, like horror, it's just not in me. The comedy comes natural. I don't know. I don't know if it's a genetic thing or it's just studying, watching a lot of sitcoms and getting the rhythms in your head. I don't know what it is, but that's what I gravitate towards.
Well, I really like how you took like a historical antidote and you just kind of created a world around it. And that's such a great genre, whether you characterize it as fictional history or, whatever, fictionalized history or whatever, or how true you stay to it. But it is fascinating, and you picked a great topic. I think it's something that everyone has an opinion about. So that was really great. And Jay, what is your wheelhouse like in terms of genre?
All mainly comedy. Just about 97% comedy. I just actually shot my first horror short about 2 months ago. We did like an online screening for it. Yeah.
Cool.
So but it's been mainly comedy,
Yeah, so that's your comfort zone.
Yeah. Dark comedy, slapstick.
Yeah, and for sure we have with Wilder and Stirling and Judd, you guys are clearly comedy centric, right?
For the most part.
Yeah. Oh. Go ahead, Judd.
I was going to say, yeah, for the most part, everything I write veers into comedy. When I started, though, I was mentored by a screenwriter named Alvin Sargent. I worked with him on Spider-Man 2 back in the early 2000s. And his whole guidance to me early on was, it doesn't really matter what genre you're writing, as long as there's clear character development and a good story to fall back on. So that's sort of a tenet that I've operated under my entire career.
Sure.
Good writing, but yeah, everything goes to comedy. I've dabbled in horror a little bit. I directed a horror comedy back in 2019, a short that ended up going to Rotterdam for a film festival there. But yeah, I mean, everything I do veers back into comedy in some
Yeah.
form or another.
And Wilder
Yeah.
and Stirling, have you collaborated on other things?
We've been working together for a couple decades. That's all I'd like to say about that.
Oh, so since preschool.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah. As we like to say, we've been working together since Prince's 1999 was set in the future. But we have, interestingly, my background is almost exclusively in comedy. Wilder kind of is a little bit more.
I sometimes delete the comedy out of things.
Right, you
And
know,
leave them just scary or just dramatic.
right.
Well,
Just take all the
Wilder
jokes
looks
out and
more
send it
like
to
a
drama.
Renaissance man. Wilder, you look
Yeah.
more like a Renaissance man.
I'll
Yes,
take that.
yes.
Absolutely.
But the interesting thing is, Wilder and I worked together. We directed one of his scripts as a feature that was to our minds more of a straight rom-com, and was received as a horror comedy. So that we thought people going crazy in a house and attacking each other with sledgehammers was basic rom-com stuff. Some of the reviewers felt otherwise, but so we have actually been working almost entirely in sort of horror or horror adjacent projects for the last few years. Too Many Ways started as a comedy premise. It was really like, what if we did the movie Multiplicity, but instead of the main character being the one that was being replicated, it was like the worst person you know. And then as we started to kind of break the story and kind of dive deeper into that idea, Wilder had this idea, okay, what if the protagonist is actually this guy's ex-girlfriend? And that sort of organically shifted it into a horror script. Like just that idea of kind of like having all of these people around you all of a sudden be from this former toxic relationship just started to make it a lot less fun and a lot more exciting.
What
And
year
when you
was
start dealing with the idea that the worst person you know is everyone, and the real impact that has on society, very
and I think we're experiencing that in real life right now. So I mean,
Exactly.
I actually hate everyone. So
Right.
so Jim, you're no more legalese, huh?
No more. No. I practiced law for 42 years in a large firm, the last 25 years exclusively for the hospitality industry.
Oh, interesting.
Thank you. On the way out, I turned out the lights and that's it. I knew that I wanted to start writing. And
So I hope you had your stylist sign a release, because I don't want that stylist wanting, her 20% commission when this becomes a blockbuster.
Yes, I'm sure I'll hear from them, but we'll trade it off in haircuts in some way.
Yeah, that's
I've written almost every genre with the notable exception of horror. The one thing that happens to me, no matter what else I'm writing, there's going to be a thick vein of comedy in it.
yeah.
I mean, It's Just a Game is really about a series of murders, two of which happened and several others of which were planned.
Yeah.
And murder can be funny. In fact, most of the time I find it funny.
Yeah.
And I've done science fiction, Twilight Zone stuff. There's always been that comic element, either because of the characters or because of the situation.
Excellent. Well, much success to you, Jim, and to everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your work with not only the festival, but in this Q&A. And I wish you nothing but the best. More importantly, stay healthy. And thank you. Check out our films May 28th, 29th online for free. And if you want to reach out to any of these filmmakers, let me know and I'll put you in contact with them. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank